Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Jen's Books. I hope you've had an amazing week. This evening, I thought it'd be quite interesting, instead of looking at books that I haven't finished, to look at books that I've not actually started. So, DNS. I've already sort of proclaimed that I have a bit of a problem with buying books, and occasionally I buy books, I forget that I've had them, or they go further down on my priority list and they just don't get read. So, I thought it might be quite fun to pick a selection of those and try and put them in order of which I want to actually read this year, looking at the covers, looking at the first lines and the blurbs to see if I can find something that really interests me because I just feel really guilty when books are sort of languishing away on the shelves. And they've got a bit of a mix. There are some better known writers, some lesser known writers, some more recent books, some that have been sat on the shelf so long that they're the pages were stuck a bit together when I came to pull them off. So let's have a look and see what we've got. So firstly, I picked up Helen Oyemi's The Icarus Girl. So this is one that has been on the shelf for some time, going all the way back to the 3 for 2 on Waterstones at least. And the reading for this says, Jessamy Harrison is 8 years old, sensitive, whimsical, possessed of a powerful imagination. She spends hours writing, reading, or simply hiding in the dark warmth of the airing cupboard. As the half and half child of an English father and a Nigerian mother, Jess just can't shake off the feeling of being alone wherever she goes, and other kids are wary of her terrified fits of screaming. When she is taken to her mother's family compound in Nigeria, she encounters Titolia, a ragged little girl her own age. It seems at last Jess has found someone who will understand her. Tilly Tilly, as Jess calls her, knows secrets both big and small. As she shows Jess just how easy it is to hurt those around her, Jess begins to realise she doesn't know who Tilly Tilly is at all. So really interesting. I don't know much about it other than that. I know that obviously this writer's had quite a few books out since this was published back in 2005 by Bloomsbury. But that's about as much as I know about it. I'd obviously heard good things about it because I picked it up as one that I wanted to read. I really like the cover of this. There's this beautiful image of a little girl holding what looks like a swan's wing under her arm. So that's really attractive. So it does sound good. We'll read the first line and see whether that tells us anything else. Jess, her mother's voice sounded through the hallway, mixing with the mustiness around her so well that the sound almost had a smell. Well, it's really vivid and there's good sensory detail, but we'll have that as our starting point, and we'll see, whether we can improve on that for one that might be a bit more engaging. The next book that I had is I've even got the label over the name, Dave Bolling, Guernica. So again, this is one that's been languishing on my list. It was a Richard and Judy summer read. You can actually hear the sound of the pages cracking as I turn it. So this has been on the shelf since 2008. And the blurb says, an epic novel already compared to Captain Corelli's Mandolin and the English Patient, sent in the Basque town of Guernica at the time of its destruction by the Luftwaffe on the eve of World War II. In 1935, Miguel Navarro finds himself in conflict with the Spanish Civil Guard and flees the fishing village of Lequitio to make a new start in Guernica, the centre of the Basque culture and tradition. Once there, he finds more than just a new life, he finds someone to live for. And so there's a sort of really nice colour. I really like the orange, a picture of an apartment, which isn't, immediately dragging me in, but the concept sounds interesting. Let's have a look at the first line. It's the first line of the prologue. Justo Ansotigi returns to the market now to hear the language and to buy soap. Okay, give it one more. He places bars in scattered dishes where he can catch their scent during the day, though they fail to mask the odours of the livestock that have lived in his house for generations. So interesting. Another really sensory opening. In terms of the two of them, I find myself, I think, more drawn to Guernica so far. So I'll put that on top for now, but we might change our minds. The next book is one that I think, won the Man Booker Prize in 2010, but I hadn't read it, which is The Finkler Question, and that's by Howard Jacobson. And again, I don't know much about this one either. The cover is quite dull. It's a book. It's a coat hanger with a coat and a hat on. Let's see what the blurb says. Julian Tresgrove, a professionally unspectacular former BBC radio producer, and Sam Finkler, a popular Jewish philosopher, writer, and television personality, are old school friends. Despite a prickly relationship and very different lives, they've never quite lost touch with each other or with their former teacher, a Czech always more concerned with the wider world than exam results. Now both Libor and Sam are recently widowed, and with Treslov, his checkered and unsuccessful record with women rendering him as an honorary third widower, they dine at Libor's grand central London apartment. It's a sweetly painful evening of reminiscence in which all three remove themselves to a time before they had loved and lost. So it feels like it's a really close-up character and exploration. So let's have a look at the title, the first line. He should have seen it coming. His life had been one mishap after another, so he should have been prepared for this one. So that's a really good hook, actually. That's really quite effective. But generally, I feel less drawn to this one. I'd be really interested, actually, if anybody's read the Finkler question, what your thoughts are on this, whether it's one you think it's worth me pursuing. I really like the opening line. It's a good hook there. I do want to know, more about these mishaps that have already happened in his life. But I'm still going to put this one under Guernica and above the Icarus Girl. Next, we have a book by Mark Haddon, The Porpoise. I've read some of his work before. I really, really enjoy his collection of short stories called The Pier Falls, and obviously is famous for I can't remember the accident of the dog in the middle of the night. I'm getting the title completely wrong. I'm going to blame my dyslexia on that. The curious incident of the dog in the night time. I knew I was on the right sort of track, but not quite. So I really like the cover of this. I think it's really striking. I really like the blue, the simplicity of it. It's like a woodcut. The information on the back says, a motherless girl grows up in isolating luxury, hidden from the world by her wealthy father. She believes their life together is normal, but as time passes, she has a growing sense that something between them is very wrong. She cannot escape, so she seeks solace in her books. Her favourite tales are those that conjure ancient worlds of angry gods and heroic mortals, one of whom will someday come to her rescue. Soon she will forget where the page ends and her mind begins. There's part of me that wonders if actually I have read this or read a bit of it, but the fact it doesn't really stick in my mind isn't a good sign. The first line, Maya is 37 weeks pregnant. She would not be allowed on a commercial flight, but they have been staying with friends who own a vineyard in Bellevue, Champignon, and one of the guests, Victor, has a Piper PA-28 Warrior, which he intends to fly back to Popham the following morning. So they're obviously starting off on a flight. As I said, there's part of me that wonders if I've read this or read a bit of it, but it's certainly one that isn't sticking with me. So I'm thinking it isn't one that I read all the way through. It doesn't really, I really like the cover, but it doesn't really grab me. So I'm going to put that one on the bottom for now. Next is a book I found on the shelves earlier. And when I went to open it, it's been here for so long that the pages are sort of stuck together. So this one is Sarah Hall, and it's her first novel, The Electric Michelangelo. And you can see the spine is all miscoloured. Let's see when this is from. This has been on my shelf since 2004. So the blurb says, opening on the windswept front of Morecambe Bay on the remote northwest coast of England, The Electric Michelangelo is a novel of love, loss, and the art of tattooing. Well, I'm already kind of sold on that. In a uniquely sensuous and lyrical pose that has already become her trademark, Sarah Hall's remarkable new novel tells the story of Cy Parks, from his childhood years spent in a seaside guest house for consumptives with his mother Rita, to his apprenticeships as a tattoo artist with Elliot Riley, a scraper with a reputation as a Bolshevik and a drinker to boot. Yeah, that sounds up my street. Let's have a look at the first line and see if it's intriguing. There's a really nice picture actually in the front as well. The first line of the first chapter says, if the eyes could lie, his troubles might all be over. If the eyes were not such well-behaving creatures that spent their time trying their best to convey the world and all its gore to him, good portions of his life might not be so abysmal. Yeah, that's going on the top of my list so far. The cover doesn't particularly engage me, but the blurb sounds really up my street. I've been doing some research on Morecambe Bay as well, so it actually links in with that nicely. And the opening is sort of engaging me already. So we're going to put that one on the top at the moment. Next, we've got a couple of more recent books. This one is Luster by Raven Lilani, which I picked up because I'd heard lots of really good things about it. And for some reason or another, and it's the same with all of these books, they've been put to one side and not read. So I'm interested to see if I can remind myself what this is about. There's a quote on the front by Zadie Smith that says, "A taut, sharp, funny book about being young now. It's brutal and brilliant." I really do rate Zadie Smith as well, and it's a really quite impactful cover of a close-up of her face. Edie is trying to survive. She's messing up in her dead-end admin role in her all-white office, is sleeping with all the wrong men, and has failed at the only thing that ever meant anything to her, painting. No one seems to care that she doesn't really know what she's doing with her life beyond looking for her next hookup. When she starts dating Eric, a white middle-aged archivist with a suburban family, including a wife who has a sort of agreed to an open marriage, and an adopted black daughter who doesn't have a single person in her life who can show her how to do her hair. As if navigating the constantly shifting landscape of sexual and racial politics as a young black woman wasn't already hard enough, with nowhere else to go, Edie finds herself falling headfirst into Eric's home and family life. I get a feeling from what I remember, there's kind of a freeway love affair that sort of happens in this book, but I can't remember a huge amount more. But there's loads of quotations on the back from other writers, including Candice Carty-Williams, who wrote Queenie, which I did really enjoy, Dolly Alderton, Author Ghost, which I really enjoyed, and lots of other writers that I've enjoyed as well. So and Carmen Maria Machado, who I also love. So lots of really good endorsements. So it feels like it's one that I should enjoy. The first line is, "The first time we have sex, we are both fully clothed at our desks during working hours, bathed in blue computer light." Okay, so it's a bit of a saucy opening. I mean, it sounds like a really intriguing book, and I think it's difficult, actually. I can't really decide which of these two I want to put on the top of my priorities. I think I'm going to keep it as a Sarah Hall for now, with Luster underneath, only because the Sarah Hall's been on my bookshelf for so much longer, but they both sound really interesting and intriguing to me. The next one is Sundial by Katrona Ward, and this is another quite recent book. I really like the cover of that. The shine of the sort of bronze colouring onto the blue is just stunning. I really like that. It's got a nice coloured end pages as well. It's quite an attractive looking book. I read The Last House on Needless Street and really loved it. It's the first one of her books that I have read. I now have a couple of which are waiting to be read, and this is one of them. And I ordered this, I got really excited about this coming out, and then I've just put it on the side and not looked at it since. So the blurb is, "You can't escape the desert, you can't escape Sundial. Rob fears for her daughters, for Callie, who collects tiny bones and whispers to imaginary friends, for Annie, because she fears what Callie might do to her. Rob sees a darkness in Callie, one which reminds her of the family she left behind. She decides to take Callie back to her childhood home, to Sundial, deep in the Mojave Desert, and there she will have to make a terrible choice." Apologies as well when I pronounce things incorrectly. I've learnt so much from books that it does happen more regularly than I'd like to admit. Callie is afraid of her mother. Rob has begun to look at her strangely, to tell her secrets about her past that both disturb and excite her. And Callie is beginning to wonder if only one of them will leave Sundial alive. So that's an interesting hook straight away. I can already see that the opening is intriguing as well. "It's the chicken pox that makes me sure my husband is having another affair." Well, there's a hook straight away. Yeah, and again, loads of quotations on the back as well. But yeah, that sounds really intriguing. I really like the premise, the relationship between the mother and the daughter, which sounds really interesting. I love the cover. I love the opening. So I'm going to put that actually on the top of the pile for now. Last of all is a book which I picked up. I heard quite a bit about. I thought it sounded really interesting, but then I heard a few mixed reviews about it, and it put me off reading it. And that is Booth by Karen Joy Fowler. I don't know much about this. My understanding it's about the family who are related to the gentleman who murdered Abraham Lincoln. So let's read the information. Six brothers and sisters, one terrible act that will shatter their bond together. In 1822, a couple moves into a remote cabin some 30 miles northeast of Baltimore to farm, to hide, and to bear 10 children over the course of the next 16 years. Junius Booth, disgraced Englishman, celebrated Shakespearean actor and master of the house in all ways, is at once a mesmerising talent and a man of terrifying instability. Year by year, the country draws closer to the boiling point of succession and civil war. Of the 6 Booth siblings who survive to adulthood, each has their own dreams that they must fight to realise. The younger Junius is away in San Francisco, preoccupied with his own theatrical career. Edwin is torn between the stage and bottle. Joe is looking for that elusive, easy route to success. Asia is dealing with her many suitors while dreaming that she can, though only a girl, enhance the family name, while Rosalie is stuck at home caring for their mother. But it is Johnny who makes the terrible decision that will change the course of their history to assassinate Abraham Lincoln. So what I really find quite interesting is it is actually about the family. It's about the events that lead up to that assassination. So I am quite intrigued by this. I really like the cover as well, actually. I think that's really striking, and it sort of captures the time as well. You can see there's gold on there too. And I think that the main reason I didn't pick it up was just the reviews had been a bit mixed. The first line is, the people who live there call it the farm, though it's half trees, woodland merging into dense forest. I'll read one more. A 2-storey, 2-room log cabin has been bought from nearby acreage on rollers greased with pig lard. So again, it doesn't really tell us very much. Yeah, I mean, I think I probably will read this one, but it doesn't feel, like it's grabbing me like some of the other ones. And I'm going to actually put that one, I think, under Icarus Girl and above The Porpoise, because I'm not sure whether I've read that or not. So my top 3 books are Sundial by Katrina Ward, The Electric Michelangelo by Sarah Hall, and Luster by Raven Liani. So I will probably read them in that order. I don't like to decide too far in advance what I'm going to read at any given time, because I get a bit bored, I get a bit butterfly brain. So I like to just pick what intrigues me at that time. But what I will do is I will try and include Sundial by Katrina Ward in my May reads. As I said before at the beginning of this year, I've read some fantastic books so far this month, and I can't wait to share my reads so far with you in my next video. But I would like to know if you've read any of these books and you have any thoughts on them, if there are any that you think, oh, don't bother, or you think are actually worth me prioritising. I'd really love to know what you think of them. And if you want to come along for the journey for book reviews and to follow my challenge to read 100 books in 2023, do please feel free to like, subscribe, share, give comments, engage. It's always lovely to hear about you and what your thoughts are and what your suggestions are for reads that I might like as well. So thank you very much. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'll see you next week. Thanks. Bye.